After hanging up on Lawman Gumble, King Morten retreated down the winding escalator staircase to his vault. Contrary to what everyone in the West believed, most art was not destroyed, yet kept in a private collection in the basement of the castle. Art was outlawed in the first place because it could either pacify, control, or otherwise manipulate a people. Yet as soon as a new generation rose, it always had the opposite effect of the previous. If one generation were sparked to revolution by art, the other would be complacent. After a while, it was believed that since it produced neither consistent radical or warrior, it was of no value to the public. Therefore, only those fit to rule deserved to view art and do with it what they saw fit. King Morten's library walls were shelves stacked with books, reels of film, Betamax, VHS, Laserdiscs, DVDs, USB drives, vinyl records, cassette tapes, CDs, and hard drives of hours of endless entertainment. A 100 by 20-foot screen stood in the center of the room. King Morten clapped his hands, and the ceiling projector in back of him came to life. The screen warmed. Before his call from Gumble, royal spies had returned after obtaining his son's film from the black market. It had been loaded in the projector waiting for him. He was prepared to love this film, no matter what, especially given the deathly circumstances of his progeny. Instead, when the lights went up, the only thing the king could feel was anger. He hated their movie, and the fact that they needly lost their lives because of it infuriated him. How could they have died over this trash? The king was about to tear apart the screen with his bare hands when the chiming of the castle doors went off, announcing an arrival. He returned upstairs to his royal study. The Duke and Duchess of the West were seated at his desk, their wrath written over their glaring eyes. My lord, my lady.
Enough with the formalities, Morten!
We demand to know what is going on. In regards to...
To our daughter, for one thing. She runs off with your boys. You tell us, I got this covered. Now there's a rumor she's blowing up diners in the outskirts.
Not to mention this business of that lawman of yours murdering a protected artist in front of patrons at our restaurant.
We have the bill, just so you know.
Your Highnesses, we've known each other for quite a while, yes. Too long, if you ask me.
Come on, darling, it's only been 3 decades, 1.5 of which was quite grand, if I recall.
So we can agree it has been some time, and it's safe to say that welcomes have worn thin. Are you going anywhere with this? Yes. With a flick of his wrist, his golden revolver spun into his hand from his mechanical sleeve. Boom! Boom! With a rapid-fire shot, the Duke and Duchess were bleeding out of their left shoulders. They winced in pain as the king stood over them. To address your grievances, all of our children are dead. Your daughter did not blow up a diner. She was blown up outside of one. I do apologize for the behavior of my lawman, but I will not be paying his bill, as I cannot send a check to wherever it is you're going. Boom! He shot the Duke's right eye out. Boom! He shot through the Duchess's forehead. Their bodies slumped, falling from their chairs to the ground. The king took the elevator to the top floor of his castle, which he had allowed Dr. Belfry, his chief and sole scientist in all of the land, to work. The floor was filled with 500 corpses lying single file on metal slabs. Out of all the films passed on from king to king, Morten's favorite was Frankenstein. It gave him the idea to remake soldiers from the parts of others who had fallen. He had conceived of this idea as a boy, which is why he had the neo-samurai and then the bounty hunters slaughtered so he could pick their parts to build a full army. All of the spliced cadavers were hooked up from the 2 bolts on their foreheads to a series of wires that went into one of the few remaining nuclear missiles. The missile was attached to a machine that allowed Dr. Belfry to control how much energy he pumped into his subjects. The doctor bowed as the king entered. How much time do they have left? Once the atomic energy is drained, they will be fully awake. You can ready them for air travel in that state without disconnecting them. It will be difficult, but possible. I was not asking. Have them boarded on my airship in 12 hours. But after they awake, they will be ravenous, which is why I am going to land them into the heart of Haven City. In the time before all that was, this planet was a temporary one, given to 5 gods and 5 goddesses, dubbed the Clandestine. The world was a copy of the very one you, the listener, inhabits. In this proxy of Earth, the Clandestine learned who people were, for better or worse, as well as concepts such as war, geography, art, history, culture, math, and sciences. After passing a series of trials, it was time for the Clandestine to move on. But the 9th god had grown too attached to this preliminary world and chose to stay. As time went on, events replayed themselves out under his watch. However, because he did not create this world, he cannot change its loop. The same events played out for centuries. His abilities as a deity were suppressed. Eventually, he decided to use his remaining abilities to destroy this world. The 9th god poured rays of cosmic energy into the planet's core, then left the false Earth to search for his kin, not caring to see the aftermath. The cosmic radiation allowed the Earth to reform and cease its loop. The supernatural had been added to the equation. Natalie Bowers was a shy, inquisitive, 18-year-old girl who lived with her family in the ruins of Manhattan, New York. A decade after the 9th's exodus, a catastrophic ice storm fell upon the eastern seaboard. Made sentient by the Earth's energy, it hungered for souls. The ice storm came upon Natalie, deciding it wanted her form. The Sub-Zero Phantom fused with the girl, flash freezing, then consuming her soul from the inside out. Natalie was no more, and in her place was Polar Vortex. Christening herself Queen of the East, Polar Vortex went on to take over the entirety of what was once the Eastern United States, challenging the royals of the West, yet conceding due to her abilities diminishing the further she got away from her domain. A truce was made, granting Polar Vortex full control of the East, leaving the West to King Morten's ancestors. After what became known as the Neo-Samurai's last stand, the girl at 18 awakened in a frozen cavern with 8 other female students from the academy, all chained and shivering. The 2 frozen over steel doors slammed open. The blinding light came in sharp, yet was muted by Polar Vortex, flanked by 15 Copperhead sisters.
Welcome, welcome, my friends. You may be wondering a great many things, such as, what was the fate of your other sisters? Well, not everyone is meant for frost transportation. They were weak, and that is the last they will be spoken of.
Gliding through the prisoners, the girl watched as their souls were torn from their bodies and absorbed into Polar Vortex. The queen inhaled all 8 souls, leaving behind light blue eyes in her victims, who now stood amongst the Copperhead sisters. When Polar Vortex came across the girl, she was perplexed to see that she could not take her soul.
And what is your story, little one? I don't talk to strangers. I like that.
The queen caressed the girl's face, then turned to the Copperhead sisters.
Go and leave the rest from the academy.
The Copperhead sisters exited the chamber.
I need a second in command. I suspected there would be one of us also touched by the fantastic amongst the Neo-Samurai. Though I lost many soldiers today, it seems to have paid off. Kill every one of your peers, and the position is yours. If I refuse, then they will tear you apart, which is a pity, but not an inconvenience.
Polar Vortex undid the girl's shackles. The girl came at the queen, who turned and used her ability to lower the girl's body temperature.
I may lack access to your mind, but I can control the rest of you.
The queen pushed the girl to the ground, throwing a dagger in front of her, before slowly gliding through the line of possessed ex-Neo-Samurai.
Wait!
The girl stood, She had already been trying to mentally connect to the prisoners before they were possessed. What was odd, yet to her benefit, was that whatever polar vortex had replaced with their souls felt more mechanical than human. The girl was instantly able to control them. She had the possessed ex-samurai turn and bow to the queen.
I can get them to do whatever you want. You don't have to kill them. Bravo, my dear.
That night, the girl was given her own quarters at the Queen's Fortress, the entire 5th floor of what used to be the Empire State Building. While dreaming, she saw the boy in a field of cherry blossoms, with a heavy wind at his back.
Where is this?
I have no idea, but it feels
too real.
Where are you?
Taken to the east. You?
In the Highlands with George. Are you hurt?
No, but I don't want to be here either.
I will find a way to you.
If I don't find a way to you first.
They realized their telepathic bond stretched boundaries and came to have meetings in their dream world. Over the next 10 years, the girl continued to grow in the Queen's favor. On her 21st birthday, she was given the entire borough of what used to be Brooklyn and assumed the moniker for herself. Not having the same affliction as polar vortex, Brooklyn was able to venture further east. Under the guise of gaining more recruits for the Copperhead Sisters, she found more people with abilities. She was ordered to kill every male on sight and leave any females. Instead, she offered the males safe passage into the underground parts of her territory, as well as cultivating all of those with abilities, teaching and learning from them how to strengthen their skills. Brooklyn now had 50 disciples, ranging from the ages of 6 to 30. They were planning an overthrow of the Queen when news spread of the Western Royals, first of their journey to Haven City, then of their untimely demise at the hands of the Flannel Ronin. She locked herself in her private quarters, going into the dream state. He was waiting for her under the same tree.
This is where you explain yourself.
Not much to explain. The Royals were impulsive and without honor.
You are in a lot of danger.
I am on my way to you. She stopped herself, then grinned, wiping the concerned tears from her eyes.
You crazy fool.
So I've been told. The ground began to shake. The sky darkened. It hailed as a malicious laughter echoed all around them. The dark clouds formed into the face of polar vortex.
Very naughty, my dears.
Brooklyn was pushed out of the dream world back into her quarters. Her floor was being raided by the Copperhead Sisters. Brooklyn grabbed her 2 daggers, slid across the floor, slicing their heels until they all dropped. More Copperhead Sisters entered. Knowing she would be overtaken, Brooklyn ran through her window, shooting through the glass like a bullet, then used her own telekinetic abilities to run down the side of the building into the frozen streets. She went underground to her cultivated hamlet of survivors, but it was too late. Polar Vortex was there. All 50 students were on their knees with their hands in the air.
You know, darling, I would be impressed if I wasn't so heartbroken. Let them go.
Brooklyn took out her 2 daggers, clicking the hilts, igniting the mechanism that extended them into swords, then charged at the Queen. Polar Vortex formed a blade of ice from her right elbow past her hand. The 2 traded blow for blow. After managing to get Polar Vortex distracted, Brooklyn spotted 12-year-old Samantha and mentally connected with her.
Get to the others. Tell them to concentrate all their energy on the Queen when I give the signal.
Polar Vortex gained back her footing, tackling Brooklyn to the ground, holding the ice blade to her throat.
Any last words, child? My left arm is free.
Brooklyn ran her sword through the Queen's left ribcage.
Now!
The 50 survivors concentrated all of their telepathic energy on the wounded Queen, levitating her in the air and bombarding her with their thoughts. Polar Vortex was restless. The Sub-Zero Phantom grew, tearing apart its host, exposing itself for the first time in centuries.
There you are. What is this? The end of the line, demon. How? From the moment you took me, I've been plotting my escape, and I used your hunger against you to gain an army. What makes you so sure you can kill me? Death is too good for you.
The 50 moved polar vortex over the center marker. Brooklyn connected her mind to the electromagnetic field generator, trapping the Sub-Zero Phantom. The air engines kicked in, sucking polar vortex into a 3-foot-tall canister. The Queen was gone, but this was only the first part of Brooklyn's plan. Later that night, she greeted the Flannel Ronin in their dream world. He could not contain himself and kissed her as soon as he saw her. "You're alive."
Sure am, mister.
The Queen?
Dealt with, for now.
I should be there soon.
I'm coming to you. There's no reason to stay here anymore.
Brooklyn's 50 disciples were scattered throughout the former boroughs of New York City, concentrating their minds. The power grid for the city was turned on. Subways roared to life. Neon lights beamed through walls of ice. Then the ground rumbled. You just listened to The Flannel Ronin, Episode 6, The King, the Queen, and Brooklyn. This audio drama was written, performed, recorded, and edited by Drew Manning. If you enjoyed it, please stay tuned to this channel. Thank you for your time, and have a great one.